When love turns into war, it doesn't just break hearts, it exposes souls. The story of Melody and Martell Holt isn't just another reality TV breakup. It's a modern-day tragedy wrapped in designer clothes and broadcast for the world to consume. We've seen their highs, their smiles, their family built brick by brick, and then we watched it all fall apart in real time. What started as a power couple's dream turned into a masterclass in betrayal, ego, and survival. Martell, once the charming entrepreneur who could spin any story in his favor, slowly unraveled under the weight of his own pride. Melody, written off as bitter and broken, emerged from the ashes with quiet vengeance, her silence cutting deeper than any public outburst ever could. Their love became their battleground, their pain became their brand, and their downfall became everyone's entertainment. But beneath the chaos and the gossip lies something raw: the price of freedom, the strength it takes to walk away, and the haunting truth that sometimes winning means losing everything first. This isn't just about Melody and Martell. It's about power, pride, and the dangerous game of love when the world is watching. The love story of Melody and Martell Holt was once the pride of Huntsville, a picture-perfect couple who turned ambition into empire, blending business with family and love with legacy. Together, they built their brand, their image, and a lifestyle that became the envy of many. But behind the glossy photos and perfect smiles, cracks had already begun to form. Martell's charm, once his greatest weapon, became his downfall. He thrived on control, on being admired, on having the last word. And when Melody began to find her own voice, the balance of power shifted. What started as whispers of infidelity turned into undeniable truth. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public. The world watched as the marriage unraveled on camera, every tear, every accusation dissected for views and comments. Martell's excuses flowed as easily as his arrogance, painting himself as misunderstood, while Melody was labeled bitter, vindictive, unable to move on. But what the public failed to see was the transformation happening in silence. Melody was no longer playing defense. She was observing, calculating, and waiting for her moment. When it came, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was strategic, measured, and final. In the courtroom, she wasn't the woman Martell once knew. Gone were the emotional outbursts, the tears, and the need for validation. Instead, there stood a woman who had learned the art of power, not through revenge, but through restraint. She spoke with calm authority, her evidence precise, her demeanor unshaken. Martell tried to charm his way through, the same old tactics of deflection and denial, but the magic had faded. His confidence began to crumble under the weight of Melody's composure. The man who once dictated the narrative found himself cornered, exposed, and powerless. The silence in that courtroom was louder than any argument they'd ever had. Melody didn't need to win him over. She needed to win herself back. And that's exactly what she did. When she walked out of that courtroom, she didn't celebrate. There were no posts, no subtle jabs online. Just a quiet grace that spoke louder than any victory speech. That was her real triumph. Not proving Martell wrong, but proving herself right. The woman once mocked for being emotional had mastered control. The wife once dismissed as weak had become untouchable. And the man who thought he could break her realized too late that he had built the fire that forged her strength. Martell's downfall didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, painful unraveling, each mistake exposing another layer of his ego and insecurity. After the courtroom loss, he was determined to reclaim control, desperate to remind the world that he was still relevant, still powerful, still the man he once pretended to be. His next move was reckless. He began leaking private messages, half-truths, and old conversations, hoping to paint Melody as the villain. He wanted to rewrite the story, to make himself the victim of a vindictive ex-wife who couldn't let go. For a moment, it worked. Some fans bought into the illusion, eager for drama and scandal. But the tide turned quickly. People saw through the performance, the desperation behind the carefully crafted posts, the bitterness dripping through his words. What he thought would destroy Melody only made her stronger. Her silence became her greatest weapon. She refused to respond, refused to feed the chaos. Instead, she focused on her work, her children, and her peace. And the more she ignored him, the louder his desperation grew. Then came the whispers. New women, financial troubles, business deals collapsing. The man who once stood tall on confidence was now drowning in consequences. Every attempt to rebuild his image fell flat. Every public appearance felt forced, and every smile carried a shadow. Melody, meanwhile, was glowing. Her career flourished, her influence expanded, and her supporters multiplied. The same audience that once doubted her now celebrated her resilience. She had become a symbol of strength, proof that survival wasn't about revenge, but about rising above the wreckage. Martell, watching from the sidelines, couldn't accept it. His pride wouldn't allow him to admit defeat. But deep down, he knew. The empire he once built had crumbled not because of Melody, but because of himself. As Martell's world continued to collapse, the walls he had built around his pride began to close in. The man who once commanded attention was now met with silence, the kind that echoed louder than any criticism. His friends drifted away, his business partners cut ties, and even his most loyal supporters began to lose faith. The spotlight that once fed his ego now exposed his flaws. His every move, every post, every attempt to regain sympathy only deepened the cracks in his image. Then came the final blow. A leaked video of a heated argument between Martell and his new girlfriend, Arian. The footage spread online like wildfire, showing the chaos, the shouting, the unraveling of a man who could no longer control the narrative. The internet turned ruthless. Memes, jokes, and think pieces flooded timelines, dissecting every word, every expression. Martell, once a master of public perception, was now a cautionary tale of ego and self-destruction. Meanwhile, Melody stood unbothered, her silence a statement of victory. She had nothing left to prove. Her focus was on growth, her brand, her foundation, her future. While Martell spiraled in desperation, Melody thrived in purpose. Her calm became her power, her peace became her revenge. What began as heartbreak had transformed into rebirth. She was no longer defined by the pain he caused, but by the strength she found in surviving it. In the end, Martell didn't just lose Melody, he lost himself. And as she walked forward, carrying the lessons of love, loss, and liberation, she left behind the man who once thought she'd never survive without him. The truth was clear. She didn't just survive, she evolved, turning her pain into purpose while Martell's pride became his prison. The story of Melody and Martell Holt isn't just reality TV, it's a lesson in power, pride, and the price of peace. What started as a picture-perfect marriage built on ambition turned into a battlefield of ego and betrayal. They were the couple everyone admired, until their love became their undoing. Martell's charm and confidence once made him unstoppable, but it also blinded him. He believed control was strength, not realizing that real power doesn't come from dominance, it comes from discipline. Melody's silence became her revolution. While Martell was busy performing for the world, she was quietly reclaiming her life. The courtroom showdown became the moment everything changed. No longer the emotional wife fighting for validation, she walked in as a woman in full control of her truth. Her calm destroyed every lie. Her evidence shattered his image, and her silence spoke louder than his pride ever could. Martell tried to fight back, leaking messages, spinning narratives, and searching for sympathy. But every move only exposed how lost he had become. His world crumbled piece by piece, like the businesses, the relationships, the image, until nothing was left but regret. And while he fell apart, Melody rose higher. Her glow-up wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. She turned her pain into purpose, building her foundation, her brand, and her voice into something unshakable. Martell became a warning. Melody became the example. In the end, she didn't just survive the storm, she became it. Her story reminds us that silence isn't weakness, revenge isn't victory, and healing is the most powerful comeback of all. Because sometimes the best way to win is to walk away. If you're ready for more stories that uncover the truth behind fame, love, and downfall, make sure you subscribe to The Hype Spill, where we don't just tell the story, we spill the truth. Just tell the story, we spill the truth.